Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by Emma Weaver. Good afternoon or good evening, Emma, I should say.
Good evening, Pete. It's lovely to be here.
Absolutely lovely to have you on. So tell us, who are you, what are you doing, where are you from?
Well, my name's Emma Weaver. I am the founder of Mental Wealth International. I also work for Inspire Wellbeing, which is an organisation across Ireland supporting adults with mental health issues. I've just recently become an international best-selling author, and I am a mum of 3 beautiful children, and we live together here in County Fermanagh.
Lovely. Well, Fermanagh is like the heart of Northern Ireland, as they say.
It's
Beautiful.
beautiful here. It really is beautiful. Any weather.
So out of those three things, the 3 kids, the book, and the mental wealth, which are you most proud of?
My 3 children. Right away. They're perfect little human beings.
Oh, sure, how could they not be? I love it. Talk to us a little bit about the book.
Okay, so the book is called The Blue Line, and I launched it there in August, on the 15th of August, and it is a fictional story about fertility challenges and IVF. Now, it's a fictional story with some personal experience woven through it. And I started writing it about, I'm going to say 2.5 years ago, and I got to about 33,000 words, and I just sat it down and I stopped writing it. I don't know, I was like, gosh, do I really need to be doing this? Do I want to do this? And I just sat it down. And then lockdown happened, and I done a big house clean and a tidy up of my house, and I found a wee nook in my house. Now, I have loads of spare rooms, but I found a lovely wee cozy nook that I'm sitting in now in my house, and I just thought, I'm going to finish the book there. And that's what I done. I sat every evening and just blitzed the rest of the book, and the book was born. So then I sent it across to my beautiful sister, who is my publisher, and the process began there then of getting the book out there. And it was a pretty quick process. Definitely one of the braver things I've ever done in my life. I've done a few brave things. That's definitely up there with one of the bravest. And it's close to my heart, and it's a book. And the reason behind the book, obviously, is to start conversations about fertility challenges and, you know, the male-female aspect of it, and then going through treatment. But genuinely, it's a book that I wish I had read, because it deals with the emotional and mental health side of things. It's not all about the physical side of IVF that people associate very much with the treatment, and rightly so, because it's grueling. But so is the emotional and mental, you know, side of things as well. So it's woven through the book, and it tackles a few different issues that arise that people potentially aren't prepared for. And I think if you were to read it and you were thinking of going through the process, or had been going through the process, it would allow you to be a bit easier on yourself and give you a wee bit of hope to realize it's not going to be like this forever, and you can get through it, you know. And it just creates, I've had feedback about the book that I hadn't even anticipated, to be honest with you. And I know this sounds a wee bit ridiculous, but when I wrote the book, I hadn't thought any further than writing the book. I hadn't actually thought, I didn't think that nobody was going to buy it. That never entered my head. I just never thought past doing it and putting it out there. And now I've realized the people are sending me photographs of them with the book in their living room. I'm getting some really heartfelt messages, you know, and people are making me going, you know, my sister went through that, or I went through that. And the book then has created conversations with other families and other people to say, God, you know, I've read The Blue Line, and I didn't realize you went through all that at the time, you know. And it's tough, and nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. I didn't talk about it myself, so nobody talks about it. So I know this, unless you are successful, and then somewhere along the line it comes out. It'll come out somewhere. But I would hate to imagine the amount of people that have been through it and haven't been successful, and maybe have never told.
Oh, well. It is amazing, the stories and things that people do go through. So, I mean, fair play to you for taking stage and actually telling your story. You know, it's a very brave thing to do too, right?
It is. I'm quite a private person, believe it or not. It doesn't feel like that at the minute because I'm chatting away about it. But you know, I don't really give much away. I kind of I think really it's really nobody's business. I'm not going to tell it, but there's power in the story, and I'm only realizing that now. And it's not that my story is any better than anybody else's. It's just I'm prepared to tell it and start conversations and bring other people forward. And from that, other people that have wrote books about different things will contact me going, right, now we've started this ball rolling, and people seem to be really taking on board your book and the fact that you're so vocal about it. Let's do something about this. You know, let's keep it going, go forward, talk about those taboo subjects that nobody's talking about, and really kind of bring it forward. So there's lots of different things coming in on top of, I know my book is about obviously fertility challenges and IVF, but there's a whole load of other issues that people are coming forward that you could potentially link to issues around that really are coming to the forefront, and I'm going to help create conversations around them as well.
So what was the change over then? I mean, from, as you said, you're quite a private person to, I mean, a private person doesn't write a book, you know, so what was the sort of the turning point for you?
The turning point was, well, obviously Karen was like, you need to write about this. You can't have that experience and not write about it. And she only came out with that whenever I eventually told people what I had been through, because people could see a difference in me and didn't really know what was going on. So she definitely would have said, write a book. And I was like, no, I don't. And then I genuinely just thought, like, I looked all the internet, like my cupboards, I haven't even threw them out yet. My cupboards are full of books about fertility and how to get pregnant and the processes and all that, and nothing talks about the emotional side of it. Nothing really. And my background, like, I'm 21 years working in mental health, and I mean, there's lots of different issues come up for people, and I've never heard anybody talking about the journey of IVF, as with other topics as well. But hand on heart, it's a book I wish I had read, and that's how I know that people, and that's not me being, oh, people are going to love it. People are going to hate it as well and think, oh my goodness, what is she even talking about? But it will resonate with certain people, and it will. And how I know that is because I wish I had read it, and if I had read it, it would have made me feel a wee bit better about the process, or I would have been a bit easier on myself and kinder to myself when I was going through it, if I was able to connect and understand that other people had been there as well. It's a personal journey for a lot of people, you know.
I was going to say, what is the message you want to leave people with, and on, you know, once they've read the book, what's the takeaway for people?
So I've dedicated the book to anybody that is faced with fertility challenges, and I wrote in it, you are not alone. It's a very lonely journey. It's lonesome if you don't talk about it or don't tell about it, and it's probably even lonesome when you do, because only you can go through it. And then I also talk to people, and I know this is a message that a lot of people talk about, but just be kind to people. You never know what anybody's going through. It is that simple. Just be kind to people. And then for those faced with these challenges, you're not alone. Reach out. You know, there's conversations starting now. There's other issues coming up around it, and you know, you're not alone. You don't have to do it on your own. And hopefully the book brings a bit of comfort to that as well.
Possibly stating the obvious, but I'm assuming the blue line is to do with the pregnancy test.
Yes. How cool is that?
just checking. Is like, it's one of those things like
blue line, because you're always looking for two, so it's that one blue line is what's heartbreaking. Like, can you imagine? And I don't know people's circumstances, month in, month out, like, it takes over your whole life, your whole existence. So the reason why I didn't tell anybody was because I didn't want it to be part of work. I didn't want it to be part of my extended family. I didn't want all my social friends to know, because it was already engulfing me inside. I just wanted the rest to be normal, and obviously it was a private matter, but it's a hard journey to go through. Like, so I mean, the blue line is that dreaded one blue line that you do not want to see. You want to see two.
And I assume, I mean, there's with IVF and the whole side of it there's different levels, different types. I assume there's, you know, multiple categories in that as well. But you focus more on the emotional side of all of that, do you?
Well, in the book, it explains different types. There's IVF, there's ICSI, there's, you know, and that is all those. There is factual information in the book. So as much as I thought I was going to write a fictional book, I was never going to get away with anybody thinking that I didn't know what I was talking about, because there's too much information in the book. And I'm part of a small women's coaching community, and before the book was launched, I had kind of said, you know, people are looking to talk to me, they're looking to put it in the paper, and I don't want to. It's very much coming out as a fictional book, and I am not saying anything. Like, right up until the day before I was interviewed for the paper, I was saying it's a fictional book. And the girls goes, look, Emma, people aren't going to buy it. I know what I'm talking about, and I've put it in a book. Now, I can't stress enough, the characters are fiction. I completely made them up out of my head. I had great crack making them up. I researched them. I got in contact with a lady, Adria Peters, over in America, and she explains how you create characters in books, and you know, so that was a wee bit of fun. But essentially, like, it's in it about the injections, the name of the injections are in it, when you have to take it. You know, you get a schedule of, you take it, you know, and then you go and you have to get your, you know, checked for follicles. So all that information is in it, but it very much highlights the emotional side of things, like the panic that some people feel, the side effects of the medication, your hormones, you know, it really captures all of that, which is what I wanted to do. That was the essence of it, really.
How do you feel now?
I feel, honestly, somebody asked me this question, I feel like a badass because I have put it out there and kind of nobody else really did, and I was like, I feel like a badass because I've been through all that and I'm still able to write a book about it. So, you know, so it's good going. I'd imagine IVF is traumatic for a lot of people. There is traumatic elements to it, and whether it's the treatment, whether it's the one blue line, whether it's never seeing the two blue lines, you know, there's so many elements to it that really, you know, like, in all truth, there's no surprise I put the book down and couldn't start it again. As much as I did definitely create a space in the house, but I obviously created a safe space, or a space, you know, there was obviously something blocked that I had to deal with, and then I just went on with the book, whether it was feeling I wasn't ready to tell my story. I didn't feel good enough to be an author. Who was I to write a book? And I mean, it's an international best-selling book, and like, so people are reading it. I mean, it is of value to some people. You know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I mean, it's obviously doing something. So once you get over all them barriers and put your ego aside and realize the bigger picture here, you know, I felt definitely felt good about myself to overcome all those things and still put it out.
Absolutely. Well, fair play to you. You know, and I imagine, I mean, has it been a process for you too, I suppose, in terms of your own journey? Have you found it?
Well, because here in the north of Ireland, you only get one free NHS cycle. So if you think, and again, it's in the book as well, I consider all aspects. You've got the financial strain, you're hiding stuff, you're telling kind of lies, you're avoiding people and situations, and that doesn't make you feel good about yourself, you know. So obviously, so there's a big long wait. You've got to wait 2 years before you even get to see. You've got to be trying to conceive a child for 2 years before you even get to see the consultant. And by the time you get to see the consultant, there's another 2 years wait. It just, that's how bad it is here to get your free NHS cycle. I'm just saying free, I don't really know what else to call it. So we went down the private route. So they have to gather up all this money, you know, and all that there. And whenever you go private with a particular organisation in Northern Ireland, now I know people that go abroad, they go to Prague and things like that. That's not a route we decided to go down. It just wasn't really practical for us. It's cheaper, but we just couldn't do it. So in here, then you got free counselling. So you were able to go, that free organisation provided a counsellor. So I went a couple of times and chatted to her, really just to acknowledge how heavy it is and how hard it was. And like, I would consider myself to be a strong woman, very vocal. I've built resilience over the years, just in different life events, you know, so I would consider myself that, but it still was hard. And because we weren't telling anybody, I needed to tell somebody. So I told the counsellor. So I went about 3 times just to kind of get it out, because you do then fear that you're blocking yourself. You know, that you're potentially thinking, we can't have children, and you're blocking yourself from that happening. And like, I hear more often of people that have been through IVF and it didn't work, and then whenever they decide, look, we tried, it's just not going to happen for us, 6 months or a year down the line, they conceive naturally. And that actually happens more often than you realise. Look at Rosanna Davison. She has just had, they heard her husband had a surrogate baby, and now she's pregnant herself. And she was told she would never conceive children after going through years. And the only reason why I know that is because I follow her on Instagram, and she's very vocal about it, and that's how I know. But she's pregnant herself after having a surrogate baby. So there is some sort of a block as well, you know. So I don't know.
It is, it is amazing. I mean, out of curiosity, a round of IVF, how much are you talking cost-wise?
Everywhere's different, to be honest with you, but it's up past £5,000 when you
Per
add
cycle?
everything in.
Wow.
And you know, it gets complicated then as well, because it's really technical. Everyone's really technical. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's the most unromantic thing you will ever do in your whole entire life. But I mean, if they overstimulate you, then they have to freeze you then have to freeze your potential embryos. So, you know, if they overstimulate you, everything then has to be frozen, and then it's going to cost more money to put you back on the cycle. So it's really up and down and up. It's just not, you go in, you get the medication, they create all these follicles, they drain them out of you, and then put everything all together and create these embryos, and you come back in 5 days if you're lucky, whenever they get to blastocyst, and they insert these back into you, and hopefully it attaches and you have a baby. It's stop start, you know. It's just, and then, well, you don't think of the financial implication, and it's an issue for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have children because they can't financially go down the private route, which it's fascinating to think that you cannot get funded for that yearning, that natural yearning that people feel to have a baby. But so then you have to then find more finances to finance the rest of that cycle, because it hasn't went the way that you were hoping it was going to go and you just stopped. And so it's just not, there's nothing easy about it.
Well, fair play. But I mean, you have 3 children now yourself, you were saying?
I have 3 kids, yeah. Now they're not all IVF babies, but I have 3 children, yeah.
What age are they?
I have a 24-year-old, I have a 13-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Wow.
So I'm very blessed.
That's a good spread between them all. So
yeah, isn't it? And you know what? That's okay. I'm okay with that. I can deal with that. My eldest daughter, she's actually just started her doctorate in education psychology over in Cardiff, so she's doing really well.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, she's cool.
Take us back. What does fire in the belly mean to you?
So, whenever I heard the term fire in the belly, like, you literally can sit for a minute and think, what is the fire in my belly? And I suppose essentially what you're looking for is what creates that feeling within you, or what are you, the word passion, I'm just going to say passionate about, or what gets you up in the morning. And I suppose I thought about this, and I thought about it as well in a recent I was in a Zoom call with some colleagues in the mastermind, and they talked about the 7 levels deep, which is something that I haven't really heard tell of. And I was a wee bit surprised with some of my answers in that. So the fire in my belly is to make sure that myself, my family, and people have a voice, that people are heard. And if you'd have asked me that about a month ago, that might not have been my answer. But given it a bit of genuine thought, it really is about, it's no surprise I've wrote a book to create conversations, although I didn't consciously do that. But having sat down and thought about it, it really is creating an environment for people to have their say, to talk and to be heard. You know, so yeah, that's what gives me fire in my belly. And I didn't realise it till a while ago, but that's what it is.
Do you have it?
Huh?
Do you have fire in your belly?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no stopping me now. It's not stopping now.
I love even obviously the journey that you're on, because you talk about being strong and vocal, and you know, then there's the personal side and your own journey. So it sounds like there's it's almost like different chapters completely, you know, before, during, after, you know, book coming out, all the rest, you know. So it sounds like there's been a real journey for you.
Well, there's been, I don't know, would you call them cycles? Or there's definitely been different chapters. My life is full of chapters. It's never been, the same thing hasn't just flowed the whole way through. And that's okay. I'm all right with that. But I've definitely learned a lot along the way. And I have, the things that maybe would have made me sad, I have decided, no, that's actually what you grow from, and that's where the learning is, and that's where you get to understand, and that's when you, without being too deep, I've learned to go within to be okay with different things and work out, you know, who is Emma Weaver? Like, I mean, if I can't answer that question, well, you know, you're just allowing somebody else to decide what the answer to that is. So, I mean, if I can't answer it, I'm not, you know, I'm handing that power over to someone else. So I've had to, throughout the years, based on different experiences, and again, my life just hasn't been, I just haven't got up, went to school, got my education, got married, had 2.4 children, and everyone's just like that. And I'm kind of half glad, because it makes it a bit interesting, and it allows me to be non-judgmental. It allows me to be able to listen to other people, and that's not a skill everybody has. Like, not everybody has that listening skill. And the only reason why I'm bringing that forward is because people do say to me, I feel listened to, you know, you listen to me, and I'm still thinking, well, of course I listen to you, sure, why would I not? But clearly that's not a thing everybody does, you know. So again, you can see where the importance is coming through in terms of people having their voices. And it's not saying I'm radical, but I'm big into women having their voices, as is a lot of people, so it'll probably be of no surprise. But that's because we give it away. I'm not saying anybody takes it off us. Women tend to kind of give their voice away an awful lot as well, and it's really about saying why, and then working back as to where they came up with the belief that what they had to say wasn't interesting, or you kind of sit and don't be heard, you know, just challenging different things as well, based again on different situations that I potentially was in, you know. So I don't know.
So who are you?
See, who am I? Genuinely, I'm a mum first, and like a lot of people probably say that, but I go to bed at night and I'm thinking, oh, the uniform's out, is everything out, you know, and not there. But I'm a gentle, kind, I am definitely a gentle, kind person who, I'm at my best when I'm in company. I just love being with people. I would be, you know, if you ever do the personality tests, I would be an extrovert, but not extrovert that I need attention. Extroverted in terms that I get my energy off people. I'm quite happy just dissolved in a crowd, but I will get energy from that. It won't tire me out, and I will come away revitalized, you know. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting, you know, to go through. So take us right back. So many Emma, where are you from originally? Talk to us about your family and your growing up.
Okay. So I am the second in a family of 6. So there's 3 girls and then there's 3 boys. And I was born in a town called Clones, County Monaghan, which is not far away from Enniskillen, but it's right, yeah, it's County Monaghan. And we lived there until we built a house out in the countryside when I am going to say it was about 8 or 9. Might have been a bit older, but in and around 8 or 9. And then along came 2 more kids, which made 6 then. And yeah, we ran the fields every day. We got the school bus to school and annoyed each other and fell out and fell in and built dens up the back and had horses and dogs and just kind of, yeah, it was good. It was good to be, I enjoyed having my siblings, and we're all quite like my older sister Karen is a year and a half older than me, and my younger sister Lisa is a year and a half younger than me. You know, I'm the middle girl, so I'm the second child. So yeah, that's little Emma.
And what sort of character were you?
What's that?
What sort of a character?
I'd say I was probably difficult in my teens. I would have been probably quite vocal as to how I thought things should have been, and if it wasn't like that, I'd have said. Somewhere then along the line, I've become quiet of myself, and I would have been very good in school. I would have been the one that would have had my homework done. I would have been the one, you know, I'd have been striving to achieve, you know, and never got the attention. That was not ever going to happen to me, kind of thing. But yet I wouldn't have been in like in some subjects I'd have been in the top, you know, the top tier, but not in all of them. And I was quite comfortable sitting there because I knew what I knew, and I didn't put pressure on myself, and I kind of just, school was all right for me. But I strived to be the best that I could be, even at a young age, for school academically. So, but I did have a degree.
What was your subject? What was your favorite, or your Your best subjects?
My best subject was technology and design and English literature. That's
Wow.
what I done. So yeah. So there was two girls in with a classroom, but I just loved the fact that you physically made a product, that there was an end, the result was you physically got to take it home, and it's at, pride and place. And, I really felt that I could do that, and I enjoyed it. And it was a much more relaxed atmosphere than some of the real intense classes and intense environments. It was just, I don't know, it just was an easier flowing subject for me. And I got really high marks in the, so we had to do coursework. I got really high marks in the coursework, and then obviously the boys were way better at making, like I made a coffee table, which I absolutely loved and adored, but they made like grandfather clocks and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that, but sure, I got there.
It's kind of not too dissimilar to what you've done. You talked about, the technology, you're making stuff, and then the English literature, you're writing it. So you've kind of taken the two skills and rammed them together into a book.
Well, that's quite clever. I hadn't actually thought about that before, but yeah, potentially that's what I've done. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So were you running to school or running away from school?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm comfortable with that environment, the school environment, but probably what I've done now is I've brought it on my terms instead of it being forced. And I remember about 3 years ago having I was doing a women in leadership program with Groundwork NA, and you got a mentor, and I had a lovely mentor. And I says, I really feel like I need to go back into education and really upskill my knowledge and all. And she was like, I have 21 years, like full on experience. I manage mental health services in the Western Trust. I worked my way up. It's not the be all and end all of how educated you are. Now, some people thrive, and that's what it. And she says to me, no joke, she said, you can learn so many other ways. Audible books in the cars. It was her that got me into TED Talks. She says, listen to TED Talks. You can TED Talk anything. And like, she was a high up executive in Northern Ireland that was mentoring me. And she was going, learn that way. That, because like, where was I going to get the time to take on me the SAR degree and things got there? And it seemed to have a real chip on my shoulder about it. And she was like, there's other ways of learning, look outside the box. And that's what I done. I started learning that way and filling my knowledge and feeling, what I have is enough. I just need to keep learning and building, but everything doesn't have to be down the same route, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. And she really taught me that, so the like of, if you wanted to know something about the business of connection, or even you wanted to know something about IVF, there's TED Talks, you just click it in and you instantly have access to that information. And that's what she was trying to explain to me. And then obviously audiobooks, which I'm a big fan of now. They're I really enjoy, like I be driving to work and you just be absorbing, and then you go to work and you can't wait then until you're on your way home to get back in the car to listen. You really hunger for it. So the one that I had met and the one that I really liked recently was The Body Knows the Score. It is brilliant. It's a real clever book. It's really good. So yeah, it caught my attention.
What's your style when you're listening? Are you a binger? Do you like to get it all in, or do you need to do parts, and do you listen to different speeds?
No, I'll do parts. It'll be the same book. It'll be the same audio in all of my journeys. So no matter where I'm going that week, it'll all be the one book. I wouldn't swap and change it, But I wouldn't come home then. I'd probably leave it in the car. I don't necessarily come home then and then at night listen to it. I'll do something else. It'll just stay in the car, even though it's on my phone. It'll just stay in the car.
It's an amazing thing. I mean, I'm the same. I'm an Audible addict. Only really 2 years ago, and suddenly now it's like someone says, you'll be taking me to the airport. It's like, yeah, no bother. It's like, because I know I'll get a decent run of the book. It
is a thing. You get exactly what I'm talking about. But no problem at all, and get in the car and drive. I'd even do an extra lap just to hear the end of that chapter, because you're not going to stop thinking about it. Like, so it's good. Like,
isn't it amazing? I mean, there's yourself with a job. you know, with your different involvements, the book, the kids, everything else, and yet, you know, you found a way to slot this in as well. I just find that, you know, absolutely fascinating, you know, and you're giving up what? I mean, the cost is minimal, as in, you know, the physical cost, but also what are you going to be just watching the radio instead or doing something else?
I have a subscription. I never miss a month.
Yeah, there's an annual membership, you should know, but yeah, that's
That's good. Like, I mean,
hmm.
it gives you food for thought. Like, there was another one that I'm no good at authors' names, to be honest with you, but there was another one and it was called Bowling Alone, and it was about social capital, which I had never, you know. So we've all become so entranced in our work and our jobs and our own little families. Nobody's potentially doing anything for, and you know, the community feel has gone now. Bar, it's come back a wee bit, I will have to say, but it's a great book and it's called Bowling Alone, and I listened to it now about, and it gave me just a whole different perspective in terms of the circular of how things are easier one way and not the other. And deeper, I was like, geez, it really needs to be looked at again.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. So tell us, I mean, in school, what were you going to be when you grew up?
I was going to be a teacher. I know. I'll tell you what I was going to do. I very much thought I was going to go to school, I was going to go to university, I was going to have this amazing career, and everyone was just going to be set out like that, and that's the way it was going to be. Now, life does not happen like that, and it certainly did not happen to me. I became a mum at 17, which completely threw university out for me. And whilst it was terribly difficult at the time, it didn't faze me. If that's I was kind of like, I had an old head on my shoulders, you know, turned 17. So I went back into education now when Chloe, that's my eldest girl, when she was 1. So I was always going to educate myself, but it just, that's what I'm saying, it throws you, life throws you curveballs, and it's really what you do with them, and you just kind of learn from it as well. So I went back into education, and then as part of one of my placements, it was Neve at the time, the Northern Ireland Association for Mental Health, who now are Inspire. And I walked in and it was working with adults with mental health issues. And I was like, this is unbelievable. It could be anyone. It could anybody, everybody is impacted by mental health, but anybody could end up on that recovery journey. And especially if you're not looking after yourself. And I was about 19 at that time when that realization set in, and I just thought, you know, we need to be doing something about this. There's no support, and there was support. There was us, where people were able to come in and receive support to help them maintain independence within the community, and that was the general idea. Now that is 21 years ago, so times have changed and people's needs have changed, but at 21 years ago, that's what it was: maintaining life within the community as best you could. But they were bank managers, they were solicitors, they were mums, they were dads, they were just normal people. And that's when I got the first reality in my life. Even though I'd been through adversity, obviously getting pregnant at 17, I moved out into my own house, you know. So, and it's still that realization that everything is so potentially is temporary and temperamental and delicate, and we're all so vulnerable. And like, I was going in as a 19-year-old supporting older people, and they were just so glad of the support and the different perspective, and you know, we were able to give them hope and bring back some normality and help them on their journey to recovery and show them and upskill people and give them the building blocks that they needed to kind of bring their life back around again, and then they could dip back in again should they need it. But that was a hard hit at 19, and then I knew I went on then and done, you know, community mental health and the, you know, certificates in community mental health, and I drove up and down in Belfast, and then I got my leadership qualifications, and that's how then I can lead teams, you know, to allow them to support people with mental health. But you know, I done it gradually. So between knowledge and experience and my skill set, it's all those things that have allowed me to achieve what I've achieved so far in terms of mental health. So it wasn't a straightforward education journey, and I'm glad it wasn't, to be honest with you. I'm glad I had to face challenges and adversity, and the finance behind it, and all the, you know, I had to learn how, I didn't learn to drive till I was 24, you know, so all those things I had to learn to do to allow me to expand my reach and you know, upskill myself and build my own career instead of it just being, well, I'm going to do this and this and this and this is what I'm going to be. I thought when I was younger I was going to be a teacher and it was all great, and then that I just, no, I was like at 19 I went, no, this is it for me, these people, we need help, or we need to lobby for services. You can see a pattern happening here, but it really was a big thing.
It's amazing that, you know, you sort of face challenges in different ways, and you know, you seem to excel out of that. You know, you seem to really, you know, push forward when other people may not have.
But I'm not joking you, Pete. I say this to everybody, and I've always kind of said it, and it just rolls off my tongue without me even pre-thinking it. There's learning in everything. Everything. It doesn't matter. You know, heartache, there's, you know, there's learning in the good times, and there's learning in the bad times, and there's learning from other people. But I've always said it and didn't realise it's actually probably a thing. It's like John Kavanagh's book, you win or you learn, you know. But I've been saying that for years, you know, you need to learn from it. And I still tell people, right, what did that teach you? Or it's not great you learned that lesson. Like, I'm lucky I learned some of my lessons quite early on in my life. Now, they were hard lessons, but I learned them early enough to be able to turn it around and now kind of use my experiences and thoughts and grow that empathy and non-judgmental, you know, characteristic that maybe if I'd have been on to university and thought I was this big high flyer and I'm going to do this, that and the other, I wouldn't have maybe thought like that, you know. So I am grateful, to be honest with you, for the hard lessons learned.
When you say hard lessons, I mean, I don't want to delve too much, but I mean, can you give us an idea what you're referring to?
So some of the hard lessons was, I suppose, how I was judged at 17 getting pregnant. Now, I was madly in love, absolutely, no, you know, and Chloe was a beautiful surprise that came my way, and again, to clearly teach me a lesson, to bring me down a better path. And so I do remember, like, I mean, and without thinking, oh gosh, like, I remember sitting in the bus depot because clearly I couldn't drive, and I was just coming back from a scan, and it was as big as a house. I was probably 18 at this time, and the girls from my school were coming, you know, they were, so say I got pregnant then in 5th year, so they were then going on to 6th year, which was A levels. So here in Fermanagh, you can get then to go to the grammar school. If you weren't in the grammar school, you can get to go in 6th year. So I was getting the bus after coming from a scan, I was sitting on my own, and they were all coming down, like, and I would have hung about with them at school, and they all just looked at me, and I was sitting, and then it made me feel like a piece of dirt. It definitely did, because I was thinking, you know, I went to say hello to them or whatever, and they're like, oh, well, I'll probably, you're pregnant. Bear in mind, this was like 25 years ago, you know, gosh, when I say that now. But that has led me not to be judgmental on people, because I know what the impact is, and genuinely, you never know what people are going through. People can't throw stones, you know, so I would have faced a lot of that. Chloe's dad, unfortunately, then was killed when she was 5. And then so I was facing, now he wasn't here, but then I was faced with a lifetime of Chloe not knowing her dad, and that would have had that's hard to kind of understand, and then try and think, well, Chloe was only 5. She maybe was happy enough just tipping about with me, and it wasn't until she was older that she realised this huge person was missing in her life, whereas I had probably kind of moved on a bit and dealt with it, and then just come back and hit us like a ton of bricks when she was a wee bit older. So that's a hard lesson to learn at a young age, how fragile life is, and how you can be put in a situation that not in your wildest dreams you ever thought that you were going to encounter. And yet again, it gives you that sense of fearlessness as well, because life is quite short and bad things happen all the time, and people have to unfortunately deal with it or grow from it or learn from it, and it makes you a better person in one sense as well. But again, it makes you just realise how fragile life is.
Isn't it amazing? You know, it's the journeys people go through. I mean, you mentioned you moved out as well at 17. You moved out of the house.
And you know what? I didn't have to be honest with you. I genuinely didn't have to. mum and dad were so supportive, and I got myself a wee part-time job, and mum would have helped, and she would have minded Chloe when she was a baby. And I remember coming home one day and mum was bathing her, and I remember thinking, I want to bath my own baby. I don't want to. I just make do on very little money for now until I educate myself. But I want to bath my own baby, and I was only 17, was it? I was 18. So I was 18. So then I applied for a house, and I got a house, and I moved. Me and Chloe and her dad all moved in together. But it was based around my yearning to be a good mum. I I don't know why that literally was when I just saw it, and I said, Mum, I'm going to move out. And they would have been confident thinking, I wasn't running the roads or wasn't anything. I just wanted to be Chloe's mum. So they were happy enough, and I moved out at 18, 17. And I've never moved home. I've always just kind of done my own thing then, So I'd have been right quiet of myself, if I'm honest with you. I just would have wanted, I took the notion then that, I've had this child and I love her so much, and I'm going to rear her, just as well as I can. And if I needed help, mum and dad were just in the other way. And they came down and they minded her. And sure, I went back to college, and I didn't do that all by myself. It was a collective effort, and everybody chipped in. And, and at the time I passed no remarks until it was dad got up, and we were talking about something one day, and he just reiterated or put it all back on me what I'd achieved. And I was sitting thinking, so people did notice, because when you're going through it, you think, oh, I'm just going through it and I'll get through it and it's all right, and sure, I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll face this and sure, I'll get through that as well. And then it's not until somebody puts it back on you, and he said, look, Emma, you had Chloe very young, you were faced with those challenges then, single mother. I bought my own house on my own. I got my driving license 24, didn't want to drive, and all I wanted was a Vauxhall Tigra, like a Vauxhall Tigra. But I got it. Do you know what I mean? So these wee things I set myself to, I get them. And while you think nobody's passing any remarks, people are, and you don't need to hear it all the time. And it was nice to hear it years and years later. I was like, oh gosh, yeah, I did do all them things, and thank you very much. Whereas someone who was telling you all the time, it mightn't mean as much. But when I heard it all back, now I've achieved a lot more since, but I remember at that time thinking, oh my goodness, imagine. So it was a nice feeling.
Where does that drive come from? I mean, do you take after one of your parents, or what was your sort of inspiration or?
Gosh, I don't know. Mum was good. Mum, she was always at home for us. So mum was, she provided. She was always there in the mornings, always there at night time. We had security, when the mum was there. And dad worked a lot. And I suppose there were 6 of us. We just built a big house in the country or whatever. So he, it's probably because the odds were stacked against me. I'd be quite defiant. Like you think about it, like the odds were stacked against me. But my siblings are the same, so it's clearly in us. They're the same in different ways. Like Karen's an author, she owns 5 publishing houses. Lisa has just turned around a whole new shop in the local area. My brothers are all, striving in their careers, starting their own business, living in different countries, so there's something. Now, we all do different things. We all do completely different things, but we strive at what we do.
But obviously, like I say, you're not shy about a get up and go. That's for sure. Anyway, you're motivated. So
well, I do say never let an opportunity pass you by. But it has to fit. There's no point in saying that, but that I would say that quite often. Never let an opportunity pass you by. As long as it fits and it's aligned with what you're doing. Not something random. Consider it at least. And overcome the challenge of it.
What would you be a proud person?
Yeah, I probably am. The only person I'm in competition with is myself. I'd be very hard on myself. I would be very hard on myself, but I'm not. I'm competitive with myself most of the time. Yeah, I'd be hard on myself. I'd be thinking, gosh, why didn't you do that or whatever? But whatever. I'd be easy enough going to as well. It wouldn't break me if something didn't happen that I thought was going to happen. I would very much accept the fact that something else is coming my way. That kind of, I'd have the balance. to know that, but probably only as the years go on, you kind of learn those things, don't you, really?
How is the inner voices and the inner critic?
Not too bad, honestly. I'm doing a lot of, I have done a lot of work on myself. There's no point in saying, because there's a lot of things that have happened that could have held me back. And, you know, who was I at 17 to go back into education? And like, I mean, I had no money. Like, I was going to college looking absolutely horrendous. You know, my money went to my daughter and my home. And, you know, and I remember one time thinking, like, my kids are my driving force as well. So I remember being at college one time, and we all, you know, when you're at college not there and everybody goes out for lunch together, and I hadn't even the money to go for lunch. I was coming with like a wee sandwich tucked in my bag, but I just was going to finish college. It didn't matter. So as much as I was proud, you know, you can only be proud when you have the ability to be as well. I would, you know, I would do what needed to be done to get it done, because like, I graduated the day of the Twin Towers. We were in the auditorium and we come out. So everybody always says, what were you doing the day of the Twin Towers? That's what I was doing. But I had Chloe with me. And I mean, I was like, you know, it just was 10 times better, the fact that I had my daughter with me. And I was able to show her, you know, whatever comes your way, you know, we've got each other. We'll do this together. And, you know, hopefully a bit of that. Well, it clearly has, because she's done very well for herself, and I mean, she's done it for herself as well. To rub that off and to say, you can still achieve things, because I said it earlier on, the odds were stacked against me. Like, I mean, it was 50-50. It was either going to go one way or the other, you know, and there's not great opportunities for 25 years ago for a 17-year-old pregnant. You know, your opportunities are very limited unless you grab. You need to work out what's around you and think, right, what's practical. And I had help. I didn't do it all myself, so my family was good to me. Like.
But it's interesting. I mean, you know, some people in that situation will swim, some people will sink, you know, and but you chose to sort of rise up, and do you enjoy a challenge?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Like at work, I don't, you see, these are things you don't realize till someone like yourself puts it into a different word. And then you think, yeah, that's actually a good word. Like in work, and I didn't think troubleshooter was a good word, but it actually is. And I thrive on it now. They call me the troubleshooter work, because if there's an issue or there's a problem or something's going on, I'll get the call. Because one of my strengths is the ability to go in, see a problem or an issue, work with a team to fix it or regenerate it or do something about it, sort it out and walk away. I don't, you know, even though all my work's went into it and all my thoughts and that there, I have the ability to sort it all out and be happy enough and leave it there and be confident enough to know that it's going to be okay and walk away on to the next thing. So I do enjoy a challenge.
When you go into that challenging situation, I mean, are you sort of the calm in the storm? Or can you logically think it through? Do you visualize it? You know, talk to us about the process.
And I don't attach emotion or feeling to it, because you can't. You need to come in with that fresh set of eyes. Now these could be colleagues and things like that, so you can see really where Mental Health International fits exactly into my skill set, and yet it wasn't really consciously done until I told somebody what I was doing. They were like, "Oh, sure, that's your thing. That's what you do here, or whatever, you know." So I'm able to go in. A big thing is communication, to be honest with you. So I'll go in and talk to people and get the bigger picture and really look behind even what people are saying to really find the true thing, and sit back then, listen to what people are saying and go away myself and kind of work it out and come back with options. Now, the key to the challenges when you're working with teams and things like that is inclusion. So you need to include everybody of what the issue is, what a good outcome would be, what a bad outcome would be, and involve everybody in decision makings. You know, people have to feel ownership for it, feel heard, and that's what a lot of people need, you know. So sometimes it's a breakdown in communication, other times it's more practical things, and then it's just a matter of seeking outside help and recognizing your limits, because we can't be all things to all people. And I give people the permission to know that and to think, that's all right, we'll just get someone else to get in. Don't, you know, you don't have to take that on, and that it doesn't make you not good at your job. It just means this other thing needs to be done. So yeah, I have the ability to do that, and I'm quite humbled by that people would have the confidence in me to come in and go, right. And it happens quite, we'll get Em in and see if we can work this out. And I mean, the majority of the time I can, but I'm sure there's times I don't. And again, that's okay. It's just you try, like you've got your skill set, you work towards it.
What's your superpower?
My superpower. I don't know if you would brand it a superpower, Pete, but my enthusiasm tends to rub off on people, and it's not something that I be potentially aware of, but I see my enthusiasm and understanding of things seems to allow people to trust me, and it kind of allows them not to be so hard on themselves. I'm able to come in with, as you said, with just that calmness and say, look, this can be sorted. But I'm quite enthusiastic about most of the things that I do, and people, it's kind of, enthusiasm's infectious, and it's genuine enthusiasm. It just comes from, I love my life, my life's great, and don't genuinely enthusiastic about most things that I do, even challenges, believe it or not, which sounds a wee bit strange, but everything's sort outable. That's not even a word.
In terms of the, certainly now you're the attitude and the mental sort of, your upbeatness, if you like, and your positivity and that, I mean, has that always been with you? Or is that something you really sort of have worked on through?
No, I've always kind of had that. I don't know. Well, I suppose it's the same thing as some people would probably associate that attribute with me, and other people wouldn't, because different situations and different things happen or whatever. But in general, yeah, I would always have been like this, probably sickeningly so to some people. They'd be like, oh, why is Emma always like that? But I'm quite happy. I don't really, and people fear happiness too or whatever, but it's like, no, it's all right, life's good. And gratitude's a big thing as well. You've got to be grateful for what you've got, and you'll create more of it. And these are all things, whilst I would have always thought about things like that, these are things that I'm probably implementing more as I get older and understand it more, and how your energy attracts things. Again, like what I said to you a couple of minutes ago, people are probably putting words to things that I've always kind of done, but didn't really recognize that was in the context. I've just kind of done it, but well, the harsh reality is sometimes something hits you like a ton of bricks, and I would allow myself the time to heal and get over that. However, I do feel it's very important to come back out of it, and with the same enthusiasm for life and zest for things. Plus, I'm doing what I love, so why would I not be enthusiastic about it? It's definitely, I love what I do, and that's probably the key to a lot of people as well. And funny, I had a conversation, it was yesterday morning, and we were all talking, and people are now starting to talk about the third path or the third way of working now. And whilst that probably people always knew it, people are starting to actually talk about it now. So you've got your academic route, and you can be an entrepreneur, or you can go and get all your education and work for a company. But there's this new cohort of people coming through now that are kind of doing things a wee bit differently. That's not necessarily entrepreneurial, but it is that they're creating their own businesses and different things, but in a whole different way, and social media and all is coming into it. And I'm enthusiastic about that, because it's something different, and it's a new angle on things, and it's growth and it's creation. And so if you find the right things to be doing, you'll generally get on in life. And I take responsibility for my happiness. I take responsibility for my actions, whatever it's only me that can do it. And again, that was a lesson learned very young. So I've kind of probably always adapted that, if that makes any sense.
Do you think any part of that was just with the sort of number of siblings, or I'm just curious to know where it came from, to take your own responsibility, to be, you come across as quite independent, if that's like, and you've got the pride in there, you've got all those things thrown in together. Does that make sense,
Yeah. Well, my star sign's a Leo, so I'm not surprised the prideness is coming out, and that's not necessarily something that I would have understood about myself a long time ago. Pride, I suppose, manifests itself in different ways. I'm I'm not sure where it came from. Like, I mean, I'm the second of 6 kids, and we're all completely different. Like, I mean, there's a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead. Like, we're totally different in how we look and what we do. However, we have all excelled. There was a lot of support, and we would have been allowed to go down a path that we felt, nobody would have went, no, you have to do a certain thing or that. We would have been given that leverage, I suppose, to create opportunities for ourselves and things like that there. So, and there needs to be a bit of self-belief in that somewhere. And I suppose that's me and my siblings would be very good at supporting each other and egging each other on, and we can tell each other our ideas, and and some of my brothers would just say, well, that is a bit crap, do not, as only a sibling could. And then some of the times be like, yes, definitely go with that, and you would always get the support. But again, it came from adversity, Pete. It did. Like, I mean, I didn't even have carpets on the floor. I had nothing, honestly. And it probably came from that. And it's not even a money thing. It's not even I need money. It's about because what I earn is irrelevant. It's about the life that I choose to lead. It's about the happiness of things. It's about, not letting anybody else determine my self-worth. Like, as far as I'm concerned, okay, no carpet on my floors, but I was there for my wee girl. I loved her. She had all her wants and needs met, and we would talk about this, and I eventually got carpet for the floor, obviously, but I know what it's like to have nothing. Nothing, and yet I had everything. I had a bed, and I was snuggling up with my wee girl at night, and materialistically or whatever, I had nothing, and yet I had everything. I had what people strive for, really.
Were you happy?
Was I happy then? Life was probably simpler, to be honest with you. It was more easygoing. I didn't drive. We would have walked to the shop. We would have went to the park. Life's a wee bit more fast paced now. So I would have been content being a mum at that time.
It's an amazing sort of, as you say, with a lot less, but actually you can still have some core attributes that are being fulfilled.
Absolutely. And I'll never forget that time. Life was just easier, and not easier, simpler, and and just, yeah, they were good times, like they were, like, I mean, and yet to other people they'd have been thinking, that was, well, and yet I was like, nah. And like, one of the key things that people always tell me, because nobody is always self-aware or self-understanding, you can be to a certain extent. I actually don't care what other people think, but it probably comes from that bus depot incident. But I mean, like, I've been out and people have been really rude and horrible and on to me, and whoever I was with has went, has that not bothered you? And I've went, I'll not even think about it again. It's gone. It's, and now where that has come out of, it's definitely a really good thing that I have. It just doesn't come in. It just doesn't sink in past. And I'd be thinking, well, I know I wasn't rude to you, so your rudeness is more about whatever's going on with you. And I've had that from I was way younger. And it's not that I'm thinking, if I do something wrong, that's what I was saying to you earlier on, I would hold myself accountable, and I'll be like, well, I kind of deserve that because I didn't, I was being kind of hateful or whatever. I'll take that in the chin and think, right. But equally, if I genuinely think I've done nothing wrong or haven't done anything wrong, I'll not take it on. So what do you think of me is irrelevant, because I'm kind of happy enough just tipping along. And it's only that other people pointed that out to me, where, I was in a situation one time and I was coming out of whenever we were running support groups for ADHD, and one of the other people just looked at me and went, that's how she approached me, that there. And I was like, nah, whatever, got in the car and went on home. And they were like, are you not raging? And I was like, not even in the slightest, because whatever's going on for that other person, it's not really anything that I've done except be alive in the same room as them. There was no, so it sounds a wee bit strange, like, but I love that it doesn't, every now and again something will floor me. I'm only human, but the majority of the time it doesn't really. It's whatever you think. Even ones at work would tell you that. They'd be like, is that not annoyed you? And I'm like, no, life's too short. Like, you have to really think about where you give your attention to, or who deserves it, or, you know, what do you give a shit about? You know, and I do say, it's a terrible saying, it probably annoys a lot of people when I say it. In the grand scheme of my life, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, like, and I say that all the time too, so I'm probably driving people crazy saying it.
It's great perspective, though.
That's the way I be. Honestly, I just be like, nope, doesn't. I'll just move on. Like, I'm striving to get home to be with the kids. I've got other things to be doing. If that's what you're at today, that's what you're at. I'm not taking it on. Keep it. I don't want it. It's not for me, and I just won't continue it. Like,
What was your style as a parent then, or what is your style?
as a parent, in terms of what?
I was just curious about, you know, your own upbringing and sort of the attributes that you saw and what you did, and you know, now I suppose with your job and everything else, what's your
That's a good one. Well, obviously my kids are so different in ages. I'm at different stages of parenting all the time, and I actually see that as a bonus because you're learning from one with the other. So I don't know if the kids would say it. I'm probably a bit harder on the younger ones, but so my mum was a homemaker and she was always there for us, and probably I haven't done that. I worked, I put myself through college, I felt a different way, and I tried to kind of lead by example and show through adversity you can achieve things, and if your heart is in the right place, you know, go for it, and always check in with your motivation behind doing things. You need to always be checking that moral compass. And so I'm a working mum, and I have been from Chloe was 5. And when I first started working, I worked in a residential, so I used to do night shifts and everything. Like, I mean, so life really changed for us at that stage. But again, that's what allowed me to buy the house, which built stability for us, kind of thing. Now I don't do that now. I obviously work in different areas, but I kind of done what had to be done. So my parenting style is really to lead by example and always show love to your kids. I'll always tell my kids I love them. And I do say, how do you know I love you? And they'll tell me about the feeling, you know. So as much as I do go, I love you, and they'll say it back, and that's routine and that can happen a lot. But I actually ask the question, how do you know? How do you know I love you? And they'll say, you know, they might say it because you bought me this X, Y, Z, whatever the humour they're in, but they'll also, I will tease out that conversation about that feeling. It's the feeling. So you feel loved, you feel secure, you feel provided for, you feel your needs are being met, and you just feel that warmth that I love you. So that's really important, you know, because some people aren't emotionally available for other people, and that's all right, because everybody has their own stuff to go through. And I mean, it could be intergenerational, you know, because the older generation was really harsh, whereas we're all love you, and all this here, and they probably think, gosh, I know what that child needs and all that there. Like, that would not be my style whatsoever. I would be the complete opposite. I mean, I've seen me in the car and somebody has hit their child slap, and I've just put my hand on the horn and blew the horn as hard as I could and went, you're not supposed, and I don't even know who these people are, and I'm like, you are not supposed to be doing that. Leave that wee child alone. It's just like, gosh, one of the kids was in the car with me that day. It wasn't good. But it's about creating that environment. It was really important to me for the stability and the love, and to talk about, like, I don't know about you, Pete, but I feel as an adult, part of our job as an adult and for our children is to unravel parts of our childhood that potentially no longer serve us, or the parts of our childhood that are other people's thoughts and beliefs that may not be ours, but you don't know that. I mean, you only know what you're reared in, unless it's completely horrendous, you know. But you just think that's the way it is because it's just been passed down, but it's not. And I think when you kind of become an adult, or as you become more self-aware, or whatever journey life takes you on, you begin to recognize that, and that's very powerful. But it's also very scary to think all those things you believed, or the thought, you know, your style as a parent. Like, naturally you bring some attributes as to how you were parented, but it's also about picking through what you feel and what you're comfortable with, and you know, changing patterns that potentially no longer serve a good purpose. So I'd be big into that as well, to be honest with you.
I mean, as I was saying to him, when we've done 130, 140 podcasts now, and it's amazing the number of times the baggage that people are carrying from childhood. And you see it manifest, you see it repeat itself, you see, and some people aren't even aware of it. They just kind of going, can you not see? It's like, but maybe it is sometimes, as you said, sometimes they're being an outside source listening, just sitting there listening, and you sort of get the bird's eye view on it, and
Yeah.
suddenly you can connect dots, and you kind of go on, hold on, this is all backed up on an initial incident back here, and as you say, it could be the bus shelter, or whatever the equivalent is for them. It's amazing what people build onto that, right?
It's, it's everybody has it. There's not one of us isn't carrying something through. Like nobody, no matter how good your life is, and I know this because of my knowledge and experience in the field that I work in. On dealt with stuff. They talk about ACEs now, adverse childhood experiences, and it doesn't take a lot to tick those boxes. It doesn't take a lot to mean that you're impacted by an adverse childhood experience. I think there's a long list, and if you have more than, I could be wrong, like 3 to 5 or something like that, there, it means you're going to be impacted with something, and it doesn't have to be anything major that can trigger something else. So don't be afraid of it. We're all exactly the same, and it's only when you deny it or don't look at that side of yourself or don't look at that issue, you're in trouble. It's, name it, say it as it is, and either you go and seek help for it, or you work through it yourself, or read up on it, or understand it, and choose a different way. If depends, it could be anything, to be honest with you, but I do believe it's, and here's me probably being hard on myself as well, but I do believe it's our responsibility as adults to unpack that stuff. And if we unpack it, then we're not passing it on to the next generation. So it's my duty as a mum to unpack anything that I think that needs to be unpacked, and then my children won't have to deal with it. Otherwise, I pass it on. That's, so, and it does, like, I don't be sitting doing this stuff all the time, but if something come up and was triggered, I would feel, gosh, I need to work, where did that belief come out of, or why did that do something for me? So I'm not passing it on.
It's
deep.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's amazing, and I think especially obviously the field that you're in. So, talk to us about your career and how you've come up through that, really.
So, I mentioned earlier, I worked in a residential when I was quite young, and that got me that was a residential for adults with mental health issues, and it was a very hard job, physically as well as all the rest, and a lot of hours in it, and used to do a 24-hour shift, and I would be crying. I would actually, the staff used to be looking at me, I used to be 24, 25, I used to be crying, thinking, I'm not going to see Chloe till tomorrow morning, I want to put her to bed. No, like, they were all in the same boat, like, but I decided I was going to cry about it. But I lasted there about 3 or 4 years. I bought the house in those years, and I lasted there about 3 or 4 years. And then I had a Saturday job as well with Neve, which is the Northern Ireland Association for Men, who are now Inspire Wellbeing, that I still work for. So I've been with them for a long time, and I worked my way up. I came in as a student support worker. I got a paramedic manager's job, and now I manage services, across the Western Trust area. So I'm very proud of it, and I like my journey of having been at most levels and worked my way up. Now, obviously I wrote the book, and that has just catapulted me into a whole different world, and I'm now doing the podcast with yourself. I'm now doing talks on health and well-being. People are approaching me to go and do all these different things because they've kind of got to know me a wee bit, or watching, and they can see I can add value to conversations, I suppose, and that's not sounding anything other than that, that's what they're asking me to do. I also then recognised a need for, so as I was saying earlier on, at 19 I went in, and there were all these older people, and they came from all different backgrounds throughout life, and they were just struggling, and there wasn't much support. And while some people had severe and enduring mental health issues, some people had moderately mild ones. So you're talking anxiety, depression, they're hit by a trauma and never dealt with it, or there was no services and things like that. So I've always kind of thought about that and never really done anything about it. And again, it's an age thing. You get more competence, more confidence, and more knowledge as you get older. So last year, I decided to found Mental Wealth International. Now, I'm still managing services for Inspire Wellbeing, very happily do. So I've torn different services around, I've changed them. You wouldn't recognise them now from what they were years ago. We've moved with the times, I've created opportunities for people. But Mental Wealth International was born on my recognition that there's a gap, and that not everybody potentially has to end up in a service on the recovery journey. If we're able to create cultures and support within the working environment that just was easier accessible than the norm. So while it'd be very hard to measure the impact and how good it is, I genuinely feel, and this is from experience and seeing people and talking to people, if we were able, like the reach, so within Inspire Wellbeing, we can only reach out to people, your GP, the community mental health team and that, and you get referred to us. There's such a wider reach, or there's potentially to stop that before, you know, potentially for prevention, as opposed to then years of going down a different road. Now, it's worth saying, I love what I do, and like I'm there 21 years. Now my job role has changed. I've worked in probation, I've done suicide awareness in schools, and Inspire has allowed me all that. You know, they're really good, inspiring organisation on a whole, but I have seen the gap. So Mental Health International was born then out of me recognising that more needs to be done in the workplace. Now you're talking meat factories, telecom agencies, council services, anything, it doesn't matter, a working environment, that there needs to be a bigger reach and a bit more support for people, whether they're well, not well, whether issues are coming up, whatever it is that there needs to be. So I now then, whenever somebody contacts me, I go in and I would do like a consultation with them and just kind of talk about what it is. And then I do an audit of the whole workforce, an audit as to what it is. And then I'll compile together a report and put in recommendations and then do a review on it as well. And that's essentially, that's what Mental Health International does. But that was born out of an unmet need that I've identified based on people that are coming through that are saying, you know, if this had been done, or, you know, I recognise it doesn't, you don't always have to end up in that really bad place. There are things that can be implemented to prevent it at all costs, because we all have mental health. We all have good times, we all have bad times. Things happen to us. It's all about what is around us at the time to support us. And the workplace is a pretty vital arena for that, really, to be fair.
Interesting play on the words there, you know, the mental wealth as opposed to mental health. Talk to us about that.
So the achievable goal, I suppose, is to achieve mental wealth or maintain it, to maintain your mental wealth. Now, and it is a play on words, and the idea is to stop focusing on poor mental health and work towards achieving or maintaining mental wealth at all times. I was at an event in Crumcastle, it was an executive networking event, and there was different people up talking, and they were talking about success and leadership, and I was like, oh my goodness, some of the things they were saying, if you were to turn them around and into my profession, mental health, we're kind of all saying the same thing about different subjects. And it was the way that they talked about it. And I realized the psychology around people saying mental health and needs to be more at mental health, there needs to be this, needs to be all that. And I was like, no, we need to achieve or maintain mental wealth, because people are always striving. They're not all people, but certain people are always striving to be wealthy for monetary value, whereas I don't see it like that. And people then as well say your health is your wealth. Yes, it is, but equally, I want to get people to recognise your mental health is you know, where your wealth should be. So look after your mental health, and the rest just follow suit. So whatever it is you want to achieve, if you're happy doing your job, if you want to come out of it, whatever, if you're not mentally wealthy, you may achieve it, you won't hold on to it.
It's absolutely so true, and it's obviously so poignant at the moment. I'm kind of struck by your ability to spot a bit of a gap, you know, in terms of mental wealth being a bit of a gap in the market, blue line being a bit of a gap in the market in terms of, you know, it's like in fairness to you, you've spotted an area where there's a lack of support and lack of knowledge, or and even a lack of communication or sort of awareness, and you've chosen to stand up and do something about it.
I've decided to find a voice. It's about giving other people a voice, to be fair, because I know what it's. I can't even sit here and go, I know what it's like not to have a voice. There's occasions when I haven't maybe stepped up when I should have, or stuck up for myself and I've let other people. So it's about creating a voice for people. So the blue line, like, it has achieved that so far, and it's only in a short space of time, and it will continue to achieve it, and I will continue to fight for it. But the mental wealth is me in working with employers to show them, if you kind of look after your employees and put these things in place, like if it's in a business where money is their thing, will you after your workforce in terms of the business model? I mean, your business is going to thrive. It's going to grow exponentially if your workforce are, mentally wealthy. They're going to, achieve more, just, productivity, less days off. And I mean, I'm quite clever in what I've done in terms, I'm going to use the word formula, I just can't think of a different word, or whatever. The formula that I've put together, I know it works. It's been proven to work. I've tried and tested it, but it's the gap in the market that made me, and it's not that I was thinking, oh my God, there's a gap in the marketplace. There's a need, there's an unmet need. I'm able to identify an unmet need and try and go forward with it. And I suppose in 2012, I co-founded Adult ADHD NI, and that is an organisation across Northern Ireland supporting adults with ADHD, because there is no support in Northern Ireland for adults with ADHD. So even back then, now I didn't do that on my own, obviously Niall co-founded it with me, but even back then I recognised, nobody's supporting these people. And what happened there was somebody came to me on a personal level for support for ADHD, and I went, oh, I work in mental health, I'll get you support, no problem. And I made several phone calls, sent an awful lot of emails, and I was told it was the hot potato in mental health in Northern Ireland, and nobody wanted to touch ADHD. You can imagine what I done. So we set up the support, and adult ADHD, and I support adults across, and like we have lobbied, we've been to Westminster for the first ever all-party group for adults and children in the world, was in Westminster. I've been to Switzerland talking about ADHD, so again, and that's just throughout the years, really just bringing awareness to the unmet need. It's not that I don't have all the answers, but people just need to know this is an unmet need, and somebody needs to be doing something about it, because you've got all these people that would be living better lives, or give them a chance in life, just even to give them a bit of support. And my whole thing as well, Pete, it doesn't cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. In fact, you're going to save money if you put these things in place with ADHD and Mental Health International, both things. It's a no-brainer in my eyes.
And there you go again. I love it. So that, there's a gap, there's an opportunity, and sort of standing up. Not that sort of, many people wouldn't stand up. I mean, that's a real testament to you, and a credit to you that, and in fairness, you did describe yourself as strong and vocal, so you've lived up to your title, really.
That's good. I describe myself that, and like if you'd have asked me that a while ago, I'd have been like, I'm not too sure. But I suppose I have to stand up to. There's no point in saying going, oh gosh, I'm not too sure about that, because like I've wrote a book, I've started my own business, I have founded a charity, I work in mental health, I advocate for people. So there's no, whilst I don't purposely do it, or I don't get up every morning and think, right, what am I going to do here? If something is brought to me and I genuinely, and again, it has to be heartfelt, and it comes from a genuine place every time. Otherwise, I just won't do it. It's just not. I have to believe in it. I have to genuinely believe in it, and I do.
No, I mean, it's great that it's sort of almost your passion, and you sort of jump into it, and you take it forward. Where are you going? What's your plans?
That's a great one. Well, honestly, to be honest with you, at the moment, my focus would be on the book, doing some talks around the book and really and building communities so that the legacy, is that even what I would call it, the legacy or the conversations don't stop, because I'm not going to run around with the blue line forever and more, but I need it to still be talked about. The topic still needs to be talked about and discussed. And I also would like to see the North of Ireland given 3 rounds of NHS IVF treatment, because like the rest of the UK, because we're the only place that doesn't, which is terribly, like, what is the injustice in that? So whilst I haven't really jumped on that yet, that's potentially something going forward to bring awareness to that as well. It needs to be. Now, there's brilliant campaigns going on here in the North of Ireland, Fairness and Fertility and the IVF campaign, and they're run by a group of beautiful people, and they have lobbied and stormed and things like that, so there is a bit of a hustle about it, but it needs to be discussed. People need to know that's actually, you get 1 here and 3, so it's like a postcode lottery whereabouts you live in the UK. That's a whole different subject. And I genuinely would like to bring Mental Health International to the fore. I really genuinely believe. And the reason why it's called it was originally called Mental Health Ireland, because I just thought, right, I'll do this in Ireland. But I was actually contacted by a Microsoft company in a different country, so I had to change the name to Mental Health International to make it fit. Kind of, it grew before it even had started, if that makes any sense to you. So I changed it then to Mental Health International in terms of what I was able to offer. And I would like to grow that. I genuinely see like in my head, that's a win-win for everybody, and depends, you know, I'm motivated by seeing there's a gap, and in my heart, I genuinely believe this could make a difference and just take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of money. So for people in the workplace or in the community groups, the benefit they'll get from this was they will now be working or in an environment where their well-being is a priority, and there will be things in place to ensure that there's priorities there. And then the business owners, they're obviously going to gain from it in terms of better employees, more productivity, less sick days, you know, and different things like that. So it is a win-win. So I genuinely would like to go forward and discuss that and go into different places. And I see that, I can actually see that really happening for me going forward, because it's such a, and I started that last year, so it was way even before COVID, and it was an unmet need then, and it's certainly an unmet need now.
It is. It's amazing how much, well, in fairness, you know, how people can rally and actually sort of taking that stand to bring people forward. And in some ways it's been, you know, with all the online tools, so much got, you know, possibilities, but vice versa with this crazy times, I'm sure it's putting people under a lot of stress too. So, I mean, how has it been for you, for work-wise and everything else through this time?
Funny, somebody else, I had another conversation today with a gentleman called Doug, and he asked me the same question, and it's a strange one. Okay, so for some of the people that I'm supporting, so when lockdown happened, because we're face-to-face and out in the community, we then had to try and support our members, people that we support, to go online. And I was sitting thinking to myself, honestly, and I done them a huge injustice, because I was talking to teams going, I don't know how this is going to happen. But they did. They excelled. They went online, took it on, and really trusted us to say to them, right, this is what we're going to have to do. Now, not all of them, but a huge majority of them. So we went online and started doing our therapeutic interventions and all the different things via Zoom. See, coming out of the lockdown, see in July, when we started to talk about, right, we're going to come out a wee bit and things are going to change, that actually caused more anxiety than everybody knew what. So when we went into lockdown, everybody knew we're in lockdown, it's black and white, this is what's going to happen. But then you start taking people out of lockdown, well, they're already anxious because there's a global pandemic and they do not want to catch COVID. That is one huge part of it. But the other part of it was coming back out again and the uncertainty. So we're going, well, it's a wee bit like this and it might be like that, and the guidance isn't really, you know, we're not being given real clear guidance, but we're trying to, like as the manager and I'm working with the ADs, we're trying to maneuver around it and what the best fit is for our services and all. But people became more anxious coming out of lockdown. Now I will say there's been a lot, alcohol has been a huge thing. Like alcohol has just, I mean, exploded. You know, people in their houses and things like that. So it's a real issue coming through. And then I was doing a talk with, I was part of an a Western Trust kind of consultation group, and we were talking, and somebody mentioned, no, it wasn't nothing to do with me, but somebody mentioned ADHD and the schools. So obviously the schools were all out. So this is now, I had to become an online manager, supporting my team, supporting my managers, and a teacher, and all day cook and breakfast at the ready and dinner at the ready, and so everything changed. Like, but the younger people that were school caused anxiety excelled at home with their homework. Just no problem, no bother at all. And now that tells me that there should be a better way for those young people to find the school environment so hard that it's having a detrimental impact on their learning. Because you can put us into a global pandemic and into lockdown, and the schools handing out homework, and these young children that have social anxiety, ADHD, autism, whatever, and again, I'm only throwing them out, I don't know, I have no statistics on it, I have no stats, but it was brought to my attention that they were excelling at home, to do their homework at home, no problem. Put them in the school environment and try to teach them to learn, and it was too stressful. So there needs to be conversations around that as well. I'm not starting that one, but it definitely is something that came to my attention, that there needs to be a different way of, of teaching as well for children that do find the environment hard to cope with. It's the same in work as well. You need to put reasonable adjustments in place for people that potentially, with a small reasonable adjustment, could excel in what they're doing if someone would just take the time to do it, and it doesn't have to cost anything.
It is, I mean, because it's interesting. I mean, I diagnosed with ADHD myself, actually, and dyslexia.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's actually a relatively recent diagnosis. So
really? Did I know? I don't think I knew that. No.
No, so it was so it was interesting, but I suppose in doing a lot of work myself and going through, and I look back at the schooling system, and you sort of think, for me, it wasn't quite fit for my purpose, or fit for my need, I should say, and it's but that's like, I'm 40 now, so going back 20 plus years, 30 years even, and it's I'm curious to know. I can see how the schools will be under pressure, to actually, to all these variations and different methods and all the rest, and yet class sizes got bigger, resources got less, everything else, and yet something's got to give, right? It's crazy times. It is crazy times.
It's actually not fair to think that you can put everybody into the one box and expect everybody to achieve the same. And it's real, like, we would have supported people throughout the years, maybe in their 50s and 60s, that just got a newly diagnosis, and they just sit with their hands on their heads thinking, my life could have been so much different if somebody had picked up on this, instead of being berated as the bad child or shouted at every day, or some people have given up on them, or their relationships have broken down. If they had got that, there might have been easier on themselves, and it might have give an explanation as to why they do things a certain ways, whether it's at school or at home or things like that. There, it's huge, and recognition is seen as one of the major things with ADHD.
No, it's amazing to find it, to get it recognized, and
God,
yeah.
you've done well. It's not easy to get assessed here. Like, I mean,
no, it wasn't. I mean, and it was private all the way, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It's and funny, I'd spoken to a couple of people by coincidence, and they have ADHD, and they more or less said, listen, it was like a 4 or 5 year process, and all sorts. Now, like I say, going private, listen, it's the privilege of being able to do that, and saying, right, well, just for me. But ironically, I did it more for my kids, because my niece was diagnosed, and myself and my sister always kind of knew, like a lot of people sort of go, I'm but
I wonder which parent you took it from. It's
probably on my mother's side.
It's not all, but it's predominantly hereditary. It's genetic. Not all the time. Sometimes it can be trauma, and it can be things to do with the birth and different life events and that. But predominantly, it's genetic. Like, so you find a lot of people, when they bring their child for an assessment, the psychiatrist would quite sometimes say, have you ever been assessed? And that is really only to give clarity in terms of, to help with the support, more so than anything else. It's not that, but people are getting a bit better. There's a huge stigma around that as well. It's not as much as what it used to be, if I'm honest with you, but there was.
I mean, it's for a lot of people, and we were saying about Audible. That was one of the triggers, a number of triggers, for me, is people don't know how they learn. It's like learning how you learn, and that's the understanding then that you may be that you're auditory bias, as in that's your method, or it might be that you have to write it down, you have to read it, or somebody has to show you. And that, one, it can be very much a telltale. But two, then it's terms of going, well, learn, use that style. Just because the school says you have to do A, B, C and write it down in this form, that mightn't be for you. And so taking the two together, and that's why, but flip side, and even what you'd mentioned there yourself is, our family genes, and even myself, would run very high in the entrepreneurial side. And it's kind of because, sometimes your void is your value, suddenly that you actually over excel in another area because unknowingly or unknowingly you compensate for something else. But that's okay too, like.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Absolutely. Gosh, that's good. That's interesting. And I'm not surprised then that you're successful and you're able to think outside the box on that entrepreneurial side of you, with all, I mean, I suppose the obvious person is Richard Branson and things like that. They all have ADHD, but that's because they're thinking outside the box and they know there's a different way, and it's like, but why is it like that, and why does it have to be like that, and it doesn't, and it's very, very interesting.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And not like I said, not that I would bring it on. I mean, if someone says have it, don't have it, I'd rather not have it. But flip side is, and it just carries for life, I think, is sometimes when you know your weaknesses or things that you necessarily don't enjoy, well, then you kind of go, well, that's not my strength. So you offload it, and then you either give it away to somebody else, and you put steps in place. Whereas if you can kind of read, or you can kind of write, or you can kind of do whatever you do, that's the problem. You end up doing 5 or 6 things at average pace and poorly. Whereas you kind of go, nah, really, that's not my thing. You chop it off, give it away, delegate it out, and perfect, we're flying again. And it's like someone said to me the other day, winners are quitters. You should quit doing everything that is not going to help you win. And that's stripping out all the things, whether it be, like for me, reading and writing are nothing. I'll never do them for leisure or pleasure. And that's okay. It's not that I can, but it's okay just to say, right, well, that's fine. Okay. Well, yeah, give me a very, the top end subscription to Audible, and away we go. And it's eye-opening, it's amazing, but anyway, it's not about me.
But knowing who you are, isn't it? But you only learn that through time and through going to those places and accepting, and
I think there is a common theme I'm sort of getting through the podcast as well, is people get to 35 to 45, that sort of age range, and they start letting go of the baggage of the past. They get to the stage where I'm going, I actually don't care what anyone else thinks anymore, or I've got the kids to look after now, so I can't be hanging my baggage on them. And so the circles I would move in anyway, people are sort of very much more trying to sort of say the buck stops here. I'm not transferring this onto my kids. And there's a lot going on there in that side. It is interesting. That's one of the reasons I'd sort of asked you what you're taking on for your kids as well. There does seem to be a massive changes there, because sure, people do things to the best of their abilities, but things move on, technology moves on, awareness moves on, everything does, so it's very
I think we're, as a generation, to be honest with you, we are far more aware, and it's not good enough just to accept that term, oh, that's just the way it is. No, it's not. If you don't like it or it doesn't fit well with you, I think people majority of people, and I do see them as well, are willing to kind of work it out or see, and there is an understanding about intergenerational trauma and what's yours and what's not yours that maybe wouldn't have been there. There definitely is an awareness, but then we've got more access to more information now, to be fair. It wouldn't have been like that years ago. Everything's so accessible, and I suppose you need to be willing to do it as well, and just depending on what your stance is on, people are comfortable with some people are just comfortable with, well, that's the way I was reared and things got, and then other people are like, no, I want to change things. So it's just whatever, as long as you're not harming anybody, it really is just whatever people. But as an adult, it is, I said it earlier, it's our job to unpack it, as you said, or find out if you want a better way.
What are your values?
My values. My values would be, let me see. So I have been asked this here. Kind. I think kind is underrated. I think people need to recognise that kindness is a huge thing. Honesty and integrity. So everything I do, I ask myself, you know, is it honest and is it within my core values? And again, that's just something that I've learned to do. Determination, a bit of determination in there. So I like to think, you know, if you're going to do something, do it well as well, you know, and compassion. I mean, then compassion and kindness kind of go hand in hand. And I genuinely don't understand how people just can't be kind to each other. It doesn't, you know, whatever your opinion is, just, you know, okay, you know, why not? You just don't know what people are going through. So kindness.
What's something you hate or something you dislike or annoys you?
Something that annoys me. Let me see. Probably people not doing what they say they're going to do. That's really annoying. You know, just don't say it if you're not going to do it, kind of thing, or follow it through. So that annoys me.
What's your top value then?
Honesty and integrity. Yeah, that's a good one actually. Yeah. You know, you just have to try, don't you, really? And but like, I mean, that means something totally different to me than what it means to other people. It's how you interpret it as well, you know. So again, that's where the kindness comes in, because that's how I think what that means, whatever, and it's based on my experiences as well. So, you know, so what it means to me.
What's a guilty pleasure for you?
A guilty pleasure. Bad music, probably. Playing it in the car. I eat a lot of chocolate, but
what's your go-to on chocolate and what's your go-to on music?
My go-to on chocolate is definitely a dairy milk.
Plain?
Lovely, creamy, nice bar of dairy milk. No, not the straight ones, the thick ones. Yeah, one of them, definitely. Like, yeah, I like that. Music, well, I'm a big Pink fan. I love, my favourite songs actually David Guetta and Titanium. Love that song. You'll hear me playing that quite often. But I mean, when I'm in the car with the kids, you could equally hear me playing Taylor Swift, which is terrible. That would be just, you right hear that, like, and I will be singing along, having the crack. But Pink really would be, I think she's amazing. The words of her songs are unreal.
That's amazing, isn't it? So you're a bit of a sing-along fan then, are you? You sort of like to
sing along, especially if the kids are in the car. It's just, I remember actually doing it with all of my children, and they're all different ages. But yeah, and I think, gosh, Reese is 13. It was Pink with him as well. It's probably Bon Jovi with Chloe, if I'm absolutely honest. And we actually went to see him together last year, so that was a biggie. I brought her along. She was like, "He is so old, Mum. This is terrible." And he looked older than probably what I remember years ago. Like, so, but yeah, I like a wee bit of a little soft rock music.
Talk to us about your bucket list.
My bucket list. See, I'm not big on bucket lists, to be honest with you now. I have a vision board and I'm sitting looking at it here behind me, and it's more to do with things like losing 10 pounds, feeling well, happiness, mental health internationals on it. So I mean, I don't really, I genuinely am more one of these people that when an opportunity comes along, I won't say no to it. I can't say that I necessarily sit and write, you know, so like, I know people that would say, right, these 5 things I have to do. I'm not necessarily like that, which is strange, but I'm not. So my bucket list would be to obviously achieve big things with Mental Wealth International. The book was on it, and I've done it now. And to be honest with you, I will write another book. You know, there will be another book. There's so much needs to be kind of said, and in that kind of style that's a bit more casual and harsh, but still getting a point across. It seems to have hit a good niche of people that kind of need that as well. So, but apart from that, I'd like to go to Las Vegas next year in September with a certain group of people. That's on my bucket list. So I need to make that happen. Really just stay happy and be with the kids.
Mm-hmm. No, it's great. I mean, fair play. You know, there's loads there. Do you think people get you in general?
I'm not too sure. I'm a bit odd at times too. I am like, I'll do something like, what, you did not do that, and I just kind of go with it. I'm kind of a feeling person. It's whatever kind of a feel at the time. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'd imagine people know I'm reliable and trustworthy, and you can kind of tell me anything and it's not going to go anywhere, and there's no judgment. And how I know that is because people do come and they feel comfortable, and again, that's humbling for me. I genuinely be like, that's amazing that you've came to me with this, and no, it's not going to go anywhere else. But I have different sides. Everybody does. I have different sides to me. So how I be with some people could be different to how I am with other people, and and then people's perceptions and that. So I don't know. I'm probably quite I would have been quite closed for a long time, and I'm really only learning to kind of not be so closed. A lot of people wouldn't know a lot about me. You wouldn't think that now that we're sitting a lack of hours chatting on this, but I mean, a lot of people wouldn't know quite a lot about me, but I don't know. I couldn't even tell you what people's perception are. I wouldn't ask. I don't really care. If it's good, that's brilliant. If it's not, that's okay. Keep it or whatever. So I don't know. I'd imagine I can be a tricky character. You just wouldn't know what I'd be working on or what's happening in the background, to be honest with you. Like, there's genuinely always something. There'll be something going on.
Fair play. I mean, it's great to see all those different sides to you, and sort of out there enjoying it. Have you any sort of thoughts on where this is the next book? What sort of field or region you'd be interested in?
It'll be, again, as if playing to your strengths as well, it will be something topical around. I had actually originally thought I was going to call it mental wealth and how to achieve it. And I love that. I think, and wouldn't be all me. The essence of the book would be me, but it'd be other people coming in going, well, this is what happened to me, and this is how I achieved it, or this is how you achieved it. And, so that essentially was the next book. But from writing The Blue Line, people have kind of approached me in terms of talking about something topical in the same kind of genre as The Blue Line, in terms of whether it's postnatal depression or just issues that people, or miscarriages, or something that people don't generally talk about, and weave it through a fictional book, but absolutely busting stigma and issues and things like that. So yeah, there's another book or two in me.
That's it. That's what it's all about. By coincidence, I was interviewing someone yesterday who's a birth doula, and they're also trained to be a death doula as well. And I was just curious whether you have like an IVF doula as well, that kind of more holistic thing. But yeah, it's amazing.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Who's been a bit of a hero or inspiration in your life, or a standout person that's
Well, my sister Karen would be. She's inspirational to me, and the energy that me and her have with each other is amazing. It's really something special, to be honest with you. And I mean, I love all my siblings. Like, there's 6 of us, and it was great. There's just something about Karen that I really bounce well off, and she motivates me, to be honest with you. She was like, get you and do that now, and get that book wrote and things. So she's like very cheerleader as well, but equally I am hers, I have to say. It definitely is a mutual thing between us. But somebody that has inspired me as well is Amelia Earhart. Her fearlessness and tenacity is just, I be like, oh my goodness. And although that did not end favorably, you know, what happened to her, whatever, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and she did give a lot of wisdom, and she was way ahead of her time, and you know, she busted through barriers and stigma for people as well. So she would be someone now that I would have, and I have a lot of interest in her, and would take inspiration from some of the things that she has said as well. I find her, there's lots of people, I mean, every day I meet people that get up every day and get washed and dressed and head out the door when they are faced with issues inspire me. I think, well, gosh, if they can do it, and they've been through different things. So Karen being, you know, that person, she's my go-to. She's great, and we do have a great energy together, and I love that about us. And Amelia Earhart as well, and then my daughter Chloe I would be in awe of her personality and her drive. She's a good girl.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, eh?
Yeah.
What's leisure and pleasure look like for you?
Leisure and pleasure would be genuinely a simple life, going for walks, keeping fit. I don't really, I'm not a big drinker. I don't sit with a glass of wine. I probably should, but I don't really sit with a glass of wine. I'm just really chilling out. I read quite a bit as well. So, and then I going and visiting my mum and my dad just brings that nice centered calmness like nobody else can in this world except your mum and your dad. So I'm very lucky they're still here, you know, and just going on a wee Kaylee. So, and I'm a member of the National Trust, so I walk around all the National Trust parks, but it's the simple things for me. Genuinely, it is. It's that's just what I do, and the kids can come too. So it's simple things. And listen to Pink full blast in the car on my way to work.
The international bestseller is yeah, sort of thumping out Pink coming down the road. Love it. Is there any sort of books or anything you sort of go tos or recommendations you'd have, books wise or listening wise? And
Well, I would be big. A lot of the stuff that I do. There was a book that came out there recently, and it was called Quantum Thinking, and it was by Adrian Peters. And the style of that book was that there is like quotes in it, or her thinking around different aspects of our lives, and then she explains it. But it's very short and sharp, and it's a really good. You could put it down and then pick it back up again if you needed. You know, I would have a lot of wee books of wisdom as well. I do read a lot. I'm very fortunate. Obviously, the Karen does what she does because I am able to get my hands on most books. So I've got motivational books. I have gratitude journals. Karen's books. She does Mindful Magic, The Power of Knowing, different things I got there. And yeah, I kind of like to read. I like to balance it out. Like I will read a silly wee novel every bit as much as I will read a self-help book as well, you know. So there's, you know, and I've got that Napoleon Hill book as well, so I'm kind of making my way through that as well. So there's a balance that goes on with me. So a lot of them, and then a lot of them would be like wee books of wisdom that you can just pick up and put down again, as well as growth, you know. And then every now and again I will just read a novel just about whatever. So Cecilia Heron's a good one too. I like her.
do you like yourself? Do you love yourself?
I do. I think I'm quirky and funny, and I've got good bits and bad bits, and I'm perfectly imperfect, and I'm okay with that.
That's awesome.
And I've had to learn to love myself. I mean, there's times when I would have been quite hard on myself, and it probably comes with the age as well. But I would have had conversations throughout the years, and people would be like, has this not bothered you? And I was like, I've actually said this, and this sounds terrible, people, so I'm going to tell you anyway. I like myself. I like myself because 99.9% of the time, my intention is good. It's just, you know, mum would be a very good person. She's got a big heart. You know, you wouldn't hear mum talking about people or bitching around again. So that wasn't really around us, to be honest with you. Like, so there wouldn't be a lot of that there. Mum would always say, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. And that's what she still says that, and she said it in all our. So my intentions 99.9% of the time would come from a good place. And so as long as my conscience is clear, I kind of tend to be happy enough with what's going on. So I do like myself. I'm not perfect. and I think that's okay. And I can have arguments, and people can throw me a few home truths every now and again. But in general, I definitely do. I like myself. I love that authenticity that I have, that if I really believe in something, I will put it out there and I will try my very best.
It's amazing. In one or two words, then, what's your fire in the belly?
My what, sorry?
Your fire in the belly.
My fire in the belly is to give people a voice.
Not two words, but that's okay. We'll let you away with it.
Sorry, be kind. My advice is be kind, but use your voice.
Yeah, love that. How can people get a hold of your book, find you, follow you, track you down, hunt you down?
They can get my book on Amazon, so it's all over Amazon, and it is on Audible, and it's on Kindle. It's on Kindle and it's on paperback. So you can get it on Amazon, or you can get it in KMD Books. So you can get it in both those places. And if you want to reach out and get me, to be honest with you, the best way of doing that is social media. So you can grab me, Emma Weaver, on Facebook or Instagram, or equally you can get me on Mental Wealth International on Facebook or Instagram. So I'm on all those, and I've literally just started doing like wee snippety videos on Mental Wealth International, which is a bit out of my comfort zone, believe it or not. It is. Talking to myself into a phone or whatever device is out of my comfort zone. So a wee like would be nice, just to help me along the way.
Perfect. That's what it's all about.
Shameless plug.
Absolutely. Is there a final message you'd like to leave with people?
For anybody going through fertility challenges, I'm going to say you're not alone. And the other side of it is, honestly, just be kind to each other. Just be kind to each other, and everything will just work out.
That must have been beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being here and being present. And yeah, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.